All right. That's variation. Talk about the next step, natural selection. Again, variation acted upon by natural selection leads to genetic divergence, supported by reproductive isolation, can lead to speciation. So let's talk about the second step now. So the second step here is natural selection. Are the slides really muted today, or is it my imagination? Can you see them? Do you want me to turn it below? Just don't fall asleep on me if I do. I'll go to slide mode. What do you want, this or slide mode? Okay. If I see heads bobbing, I'm going to turn it back on, okay? All right, there we go. Better? Yeah, it's so muted, I don't really like it that way. All right, so natural selection. So let's take a peek at natural selection. From the entire range available of variation within any population, selection is going to increase the frequency of some alleles and decrease the frequency of others. Others it will remain completely unaffected by. All right? So this is referred to as fitness. Organisms are fit when they're adapted to their environment. Is physical fitness the same thing as evolutionary fitness? They're radically different. Okay? Actually, individuals who can appear the most physically fit are actually the least evolutionarily fit. Like a classic example would be someone who takes steroids to bulk themselves up. Right? If you did that, physically you might have built all this muscle mass, but what have you done reproductively? You just destroyed your gonads, okay, in the foreseeable future because you've just done terrible things to your testosterone levels, all right? So again, that's kind of a false front. It's evolutionary fitness that we're involved in here, and that's basically survivability and reproductive success. So, evolutionary fitness then is the contribution that an individual makes to the genes, the gene pool of the next generation relative to other individuals. How much do you contribute relative to others? That's basically what it's saying. So this is an example of wildflowers. I think I gave you this when we talked about allelic frequencies before, right? So we have lots of variants. We have color, we have shape, we have the way it smells in terms of fragrance. And each of these has differences in reproductive success depending on the environment in which we find them. So variants are going to have different adaptive strategies in terms of their reproductive success in an environment. Now that's evolutionary fitness. But that's kind of a generalized statement. The real question is how do I measure it, right? I need a quantitative metric in order to do that. And so that's relative fitness. So relative fitness is really a metric, a measure of evolutionary fitness. And it's the contribution of a genotype to the next generation compared to the contribution of other alternative genotypes in any given population of the same locus. So here we have an example. Here's wildflowers. And so in this particular population, they're all together in the mountain meadow, and I have red flowers, and I have pink flowers, and I have white flowers. So in the red flower, I'm homozygous dominant, I'm big A, and I produce 5 offspring. The pink flowers, that's an incomplete dominance, heterozygote of big A, little a. The variants produce only 4 offspring. And then I have the homozygous recessive condition, little a, and that produces the white flowers. And they only produce 1 offspring. Intuitively, who's more fit here? They all survived, right? So now it comes down to who had the most offspring, yes? So in this case, who's that? The red flowers are more fit. But I'm interested in how much fitness the other flowers are in comparison to the dominant flower, right? So the way we do that is we simply set that flower to a 100%. They're the most fit. So the fitness of the homozygous dominant, the red flower, is 1. They have the highest reproductive success. I set it to a 1. And then I divide the others from out of that, right? So in this case, what was the pink flower? What was the pink flower? How many offspring? 4. 4 divided by 5 is what? 0.8. So how fit is the pink flower? It is 80% as fit as the red variant. Okay? And what about the white flower? It only had how many offspring? 1 divided by 5 is what? 20%. So the white flower is what? 20% as fit as the red variant. Okay? Now I have a metric to tell me what the relative fitness of are different variants within a population. A nice point of comparison. So remember, in order to have reproductive success, you first must survive, and then you must display fecundity. Fecundity is the ability to have viable sperm and egg and then have a viable offspring from that. Just because you survive doesn't guarantee your reproductive success. You can survive fine to old age, but often you're sterile, infertile, you have some damage to your reproductive organs, whatever might happen, and you don't pass on the offspring. You're not evolutionarily fit. So, does anybody have kids in the room? Okay, so your fitness is what? Zero. You're only halfway there, okay? So I have 2 kids, so my fitness is better than yours at this point, right? Not to brag or anything. Just to show an evolutionary standpoint. All right, so you must survive and be fecundity. So we can think of fitness from a graphical perspective, right? The mean fitness of any given population. I'm going to code it with plus or minuses. And so we can take a look at a graphic which is measured trait on the x-axis and the number of individuals who bear that trait on the y-axis. The positive basically insinuates that you have a greater contribution to the pool of genes of the next generation for that particular trait. If you see a negative, it means you have less contribution, less offspring. So there's no such thing like negative fitness. It's basically saying if you're positive, I have more than you. So therefore you're negative, I'm positive. That makes sense? So that's what the coding basically implies. I just have more offspring than you for that particular trait. So we can think of it as this kind of relationship here with pluses and minuses. Looking at this graph over time, who has more offspring with this particular trait? The middle or the extremes? The middle. So that's going to shift the graph, right? It'll shift the shape of the curve. Do you remember when we talked about competitive interactions and their overlap? Do you remember that? And there was intra and interspecific competition. Who had more offspring in that case? Ones that were only involved in what? Intra, not inter. And so what happened over time? They spread apart because they had more offspring that bore those particular traits, right? This is the same basic thing. So let's take a look at the very first type of natural selection. And this is stabilizing selection. So stabilizing selection is actually quite common. In this particular case, the intermediate forms of the traits are selected for, they're favored, and the extremes, alleles that are basically coding for extreme traits, they are selected against in any given population. Interestingly enough, this doesn't increase variation, it does what? It decreases it. Now this only works in a given kind of environment. What environment do you think it works in? I'm decreasing my variation. So it can only work for one kind of environment. A stable environment that is not changing. That's exactly right. Okay, so it's going to reduce the variation by counteracting all the effects of sexual recombination, mutation, and migration. And it's going to favor survival and reproduction of those intermediate phenotypes, right? Phenotypic character. Height's an interesting example that we can kind of use to get at the top. So here we have individuals on either side of the spectrum, right? This is like an old picture. The guy on the left is a famous jockey named Willie Shoemaker, and that's Will Chamberlain. This is kind of a little more modern, but still kind of dated. The big guy in the heat is who? That's Shaquille O'Neal, and then the small guy is the smallest guy who's ever been in the NBA. What's his name? That's Earl Boykins. You know how tall he was? 5'4" or 5, something like that. 5'5", I think, something crazy. Tiny. You know how good you have to be that small in the NBA? I mean, that is pretty incredible. Has anyone ever seen Shaquille O'Neal up close? Like, my dad is a huge Laker fan, so when I was younger, we used to go to Laker games, and I remember I got to see Shaquille up close one day, and it was like, what the hell? And not only is he super tall, but he's just like this behemoth of a guy. It was like one leg was bigger than me. It was like, I was stunned that a human being could be that fast and agile and be that massive. It was kind of a strange thing to actually view. So these individuals on either extreme, right? You're either really small or you're really big. The vast majority of us, however, are someplace in the middle. And because we're being selected for that height, do you think it's easy to make a living when you're 7'6"? I don't mean like a living with basketball, I mean like just kind of getting around in the world. Nothing's made for you. How's it to sit in this seat? You need 2 seats to sit in. Every time you come in the door, what happens? You get slammed in the head, right? They don't make furniture for you. You can't fit into cars. You ever see those commercials where Shaquille fits into a car? That's BS. He's got some gigantic Escalade or something like that, right? He's not fitting into a Hyundai or whatever they sell it. It doesn't happen. So the world's not made for you at that size. It creates a series of problems. So the basic conditions that drive this type of selection, the environmental drivers are the environment is stable over time, physically, chemically, biologically, and organisms are very well adapted for those particular conditions. You're locked in. It's problematic, however. There's some consequence to this. The more you stabilize, you're going to see problems, and we're going to talk about that right now. So let's look at it graphically. The way that I can address this on an examination is multiple ways. I can either give you an example and say what type of selection is in operation here. I can provide a graph and say, tell me what kind of selection you're looking at. So there's different ways that I can approach this question. And I can say, what are the ultimate consequences of this kind of selection as well. So let's take a look at any measured trait here, right? Let's say it's height for this particular case. So the vast majority of individuals are clustered around the middle. That's the trait that's being selected for in a given environment. So if individuals with that particular trait are having more offspring versus ones on the extreme that are having less, what will this graph look like over time? Multiple generations, long time period. Notice the time period, long. It's going to what? From the sides. It'll squish in and do what? It'll grow taller, okay? So the variation will decrease, but the number of individuals who bear those moderate traits will be increased, all right? So it's going to shrink in from the side and go up in height. So individuals have a tendency to cluster around the mean given this environmental pressure. A nice example is human birth weight. So if we look at human birth weight, it typically varies with the vast majority of people being born from 6.6 pounds up to about 8.8 pounds. And that hasn't changed very much at all. Now there is an exception to this, okay, so we can talk about it. This curve looks different depending on where you live. So when you go to a place like the United States of America or developed countries around the world, it's not very hump-shaped anymore. Instead, it looks more like this. And it's longer than that, so it covers more range. So it's much more square. It's still rounded, but it's kind of like this. So it extends past that 6.6 that way and past the 8.8 that way. If I go to developing nations of the world, it's much tighter. It looks just like that. So why? Let's start with the low end. Why can I extend the low end way past 6.6 pounds now? Modern medicine. So if you're born below 6.6, you're really a what? You're a premature baby. So here's the situation. How many of you guys were born preemie? Probably quite. Raise your hands high. I'm just curious. Yeah, quite a few of you, right? No problem at all. Here you are today. Modern medicine is the reason why. So they were able to grab you, put you in an incubator, give you whatever medications were necessary. The problem is when you're preemie, the thing that typically is the hardest to do is what's the last organ system to develop? The respiratory system, right? Because you don't need it. Who's doing the breathing for you? Mom's doing all the work. You just need to take that first breath. So it's the last thing that develops. So babies who are born young often have their lungs aren't fully formed and they're prone to infections because they're still too wet. So in this particular case, you deal with technology and you can shift it way down. What about the top? Why does it go the other direction too? The C-section, that's exactly right. So this is a natural boundary of 8.8. That's the typical weight of a child when their head circumference gets to the point where they will get stuck in the pelvic canal. And without modern medicine, if your baby gets stuck in the pelvic canal, what happens? You both die, okay? Is that a pretty strong selective force? Yeah, you better believe it, okay? But modern medicine, not a problem. What happens? C-section, right? They'll just cut you open, pull the baby out, mom's fine, baby's fine. How many guys were born C-section? Yeah, I was born C-section too. I have 2 kids, both C-section, okay? Now here's an interesting thing. So you can expand that out, right? You know what's funny about it is the C-section is one of the most common elective surgeries in developed nations. And it's growing. Super common. So it's not like you actually need it, but you elect to have it done. Why is that? It's vast. What else?
Planned.
Potentially. Here's the thing about it. Doctors are happy to give it to you. Why?
Expensive.
It's so predictable. It's a very predictable surgery. Outcomes are very predictable. Mortality rates are very low. Natural childbirth is wildly unpredictable. Who has the highest malpractice insurance of any medicine doctors in the world? OBGYNs do. That's why they have these conglomerates of lots of OBGYNs in the same place, because they can share the costs, all right? And also they can go on a damn vacation once in a while, right? So if you need your baby, someone else steps in for you, right? But that's the idea of it. So they're happy to give it to you because it's such a predictable thing with less risk. Natural childbirth is quite risky. Sometimes you don't know what's going to happen. Babies go breech, things happen, all kinds of things. They get stuck. You can always tell C-section babies, too, by the way they look versus natural childbirth babies. And if you want to do a full experiment, like go walk by the maternity ward and try and figure out which ones are C-section babies versus natural babies, right? Naturally born. So when you walk by, you'll see it, because you can always tell the C-section babies because they always look nice. They're all nice and rosy, and their head looks all great, it's nice and round, they're all happy. And you look at the naturally born baby, and it looks like someone beat them up already. Black eyes, right? Their head is all distended in cones and things like that. They have to wedge out through the opening. It's pretty rough. So you can always tell, right? It's kind of funny. It's like C-section, ooh, naturally born. But anyway, it also has to do with actually the modernization of the developing nations' workforces, especially in Europe and in areas of America, where women make up a really big portion of the workforce. So why do you think that is? Time is money, baby. It's like, I want my baby on Thursday at 9 a.m. I'm ready, you know? Plus the little one, you ever seen a pregnant lady at 9 months? It's like, get this hell over with. Done, right? That joy of childbirth, just get it done. So it's a scheduled thing. So it fits in well with kind of the culture of our society. It's something that you schedule, you get done, you have boom, boom, boom. In and out, everything is kind of standard, managed, and you're done. So it's actually, every year we see the rates of C-sections actually increasing. A lot of them completely elective, not necessary at all, right? Interesting. Anybody born naturally above 8.8? Oh, yeah, your mother. Some work. What you need to do is go home right now. You bring your mom some flowers and you say, I'm so sorry. You have to go through that. All right. We'll talk about the next type of selection. This is directional selection. This is also very common. So in directional selection, you're favoring the particular phenotypes and the allele combinations that actually are one extreme or the other. So you're favoring survival and reproduction of phenotypes at one extreme or the other, not the middle. It's that side or this side. So allelic frequencies in the range of phenotypic characters, they shift one side to another. And often they can go back and forth. Individuals that deviate from the average are actually favored, not selected against like the last one we just saw. And this occurs when mutations arise and they happen to be favorable and adaptive for given environments. So here's an example. The Earth gets hotter, the Earth gets colder. Is that normal? Absolutely, right? We go under periods of geologic change and activity where the atmosphere is thick, then the planet gets hot, the atmosphere gets thin, and the planet gets cool. We warble on our axis. Sometimes we're closer to the sun. Other times we're farther away. That warms and cools us. And then the sun itself does its own thing. Sometimes it's really active. It sends a lot of energy. Other times it's more docile, okay? Eventually the sun will consume the Earth and we'll all be dead anyway, but that's in the future. That's just the nature of the universe, right? So in this case, we see this pattern on our planet of warming and cooling. And so periods of cooling are referred to as what? Yeah, they're ice ages, they're glacial periods. But following them, we have interglacial periods, and it's just back and forth, back and forth. And the cycles occur 30,000 years on typical is one, and then there's another cycle about 75,000 years that occurs, and that's the norm on the planet. However, conditions that make me really fit here, will they be as successful over there? No, and vice versa. Traits that may be successful here for survivability, reproduction, are they going to work over there? No. And so the environment is changing, but is it a rapid change? No, it's a slow, gradual change, okay? So in this case, these are the conditions. The environment or the biological conditions are changing over time. Species are not completely adapted to the changing conditions. If you're adapted to the change, it's not a change. That's what it comes down to. So let's look at it graphically. So we start off with our continuously variable trait, right? So it's this nice hump-shaped relationship. However, in this case, it's not the middle that's selected for what is. It's one side or the other. It's one extreme or the other. So we're just going to say, for whatever trait this is, it's on the left-hand side that is selected against. So if this is the case, what would happen over multiple generations to this curve? It's going to shift in which direction? It's going to push off to your guys' right, okay? It's going to push off. So that's a prime indication that you are looking at directional selection. It's going to push off. Individuals at one end of the range for some phenotypic character in a population become more common than the intermediate form for that particular trait. So here's a nice example of it. These are European brown bears. We have fossil records of these bears going back thousands and thousands and thousands of years, okay? Very clean fossil records of them. What we notice real quickly is the size of the bears has changed radically in that time. Sometimes they're really big, and sometimes they're really small on average as a mean. So if I was to look at this plot up here in terms of bear size, body mass, you can just do it as biomass if you wanted to, and the measured trait is biomass, body weight, per number of individuals, what we see are shifts from one extreme to the other. When are they small? Might not be as intuitive. When are they small? When it's not cold. When are they big? When it's cold, all right? Now, why might that be? Why be big when it's cold? You need more food to fuel yourself. Why would you do that? Because it has to deal with what? Warmth and the retention of heat. It all deals with the high heat capacity, the high specific heat capacity of water, right? So what's the idea of water again? It's great at holding the heat. Doesn't like to liberate it. It takes a lot of energy into the water just to heat it a little bit, heat it up a little bit. You got to pull a lot of energy out of it just to cool it down a little bit. So that means the bigger you are, the better you are at retaining the heat. This is the idea why the dinosaurs were so gigantic, right? So if you're big, you can withstand fluctuations in your environment for extended periods of time because the water in your body is acting as an insulator and retaining the overall heat. So when the bears are found in glacial periods, they're really big. When the bears are interglacial periods, you don't need to carry all that biomass anymore. Why do it? You have to work more, create more food, so they get a lot smaller. So there are different environmental drivers here between being warm and cold. Now what we see is the bears swing back and forth between the two periods, and we have clean fossil records of that shift over time. Notice that the time scale is long. So there are primary things that you're looking for to indicate what type of selection you're looking at. Will stabilizing selection ever shift one way or another? No, it's straight. It's focusing on the mean. This one will shift one way or another. But the thing to remember is the time scales of both of these selection events are what? Long, multi-generational, okay? The next one I'm going to show you is different than that. And it occurs over short periods of time. Oh, before I